Add one detail to your extraordinary reporting there of that many, numerous assaults. 1978, 1981, a string of four more in 1981 and 1987. That 1987 woman that you referenced, who was bound with the electrical cord and repeatedly raped over a 2-hour period and hit with a hammer, she was 17. So everybody in that list was between the ages of 14 and 17. And upon release, as you said several times, within 3 days on one release, he was already reoffending. Within 12 days of another release, he was already reoffending. I come back to the same question, though, Chris. There have been experts who have weighed in and have said, this isn't right, he's not ready. In fact, one of those experts, I believe, is his primary therapist, named Christy Mike. And I'm just going to read a quick piece from her report, but she said, Duvall continues to have deviant sexual thoughts. While a thought in and of itself is not deviant unless acted upon, having deviant thoughts about minors who fall within the petitioner's victim pool is problematic. And I guess, Chris, as it turns out, he was asked to write journals about his fantasies while he was in prison as part of his therapy. And though he was not directed to, he went right to the victims that he victimized and fantasized about them. And I'm not sure if that's what Christy Mike is referring to, about minors who fall within the petitioner's victim pool being problematic. But this is his primary therapist. Where is the disconnect? Who is saying he's fine? And how are they any better than his primary therapist?
Well, in fact, one of the court's own appointed psychologists reviewed hundreds, if not thousands of pages of his treatment history and concluded that Thomas Duvall is not ready to be released into the community because he continues to have violent sexual fantasies and because he continues to fail to pass lie detector tests about those violent fantasies. Now, one of the things people need to keep in mind is that Thomas Duvall has been locked up since 1991, not in a prison, but in a treatment program. Minnesota is one of 20 states that operates a separate, essentially extra-legal confinement system for sex offenders. So after they complete their prison terms, they are sent to so-called treatment. And these centers can keep these men indefinitely. And so in 2011, a number of these sex offenders sued the state of Minnesota, basically claiming that the state was violating their due process constitutional rights by keeping them locked up indefinitely without access to the courts. Essentially, we were operating these little Guantanamos in the middle of Minnesota. And so as a result of that lawsuit, a federal judge declared that our program is unconstitutional and that you actually have to give them access to the courts, and that this program has to show that it's not just punishing the sex offenders, but it's actually treating them. That if you operate a treatment program, you actually have to show that you're treating them. So the program itself has been under pressure from the federal courts to actually release more of these offenders into the community. So here we sit today, and Thomas Duvall is one of these people. He's been locked up, in essence, for 30 years.
I mean, I understand.